So now we're going to attempt to compare renting with having a mortgage over time. So we'll go down and we'll start with this first row here and fill in some numbers for year. And I'm just going to start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm just going to do that for and 5 maybe, just for the interest rates, and I'll show you in a minute what we'll use those for. Annual mortgage cost, this is just the mortgage payments, and if we go up we'll find that that is for these numbers it's what's in this cell here, it's D10, so that's just all the mortgage payments, 12 times your monthly mortgage payment. So we'll take D10 and we'll put that in here, so we go equals D10, enter, right? Now I want D10 in this cell and this cell. I actually want to go for many years all the way out to the right. So there's a trick in Excel when you want it to always call up the exact same cell, you put a $sign each side of the letter. So it's $D $10, okay? So I'll just do that on this one as well, just for fun, just for practice. So equals $D $10, okay? And that brings up our 12 monthly mortgage payments, right? That's that number there, okay? Now, I want to do this for all many cells to the right. So here's another trick in Excel. It's a very useful trick. It's to take this bottom right corner until you see that little black plus symbol, and then just hold down on the left on the mouse, the left click of the mouse, and then just drag across, and it'll fill in. It's a predictor. It'll predict what you want it to do. And it predicted correctly that I wanted this to be put into all of these cells, because in year 0, you know, the first year you have the mortgage, you're paying the exact same amount. In year 1 you're paying the same amount. Year 2 you're paying the same amount. Year 3 you're paying the same amount. The whole point of the mortgage is that it does not go up with inflation, right? So you have the exact same mortgage payment each month, okay? But rent and other things go up. So that's that. I'll just show you that again. Anyway, so that was just grabbing the bottom right. You see the little plus sign, and then you go across, and it predicts what you want. Now we'll go on to annual home ownership costs. So that would be here, or no, sorry, that would be not there. That would be, here we go. Initial annual home ownership cost is this number here. That's cell D16. See that? D16, okay? So I want to put D16 here. So equals D16, press enter, right? But I want to do something more to it, right? Because, yeah, that's the cost for, the reason I put the word initial there is because, you know, these things go up each year. They go up with inflation. They go up for other reasons, like property tax. The percent might stay the same, but the county might appraise your property price to be more. And overall, you know, of course, prices go up and down, but they do trend upwards, you know, throughout the decades, especially. And so, even though your property tax might stay at the same percentage, but you know, oftentimes your value of your house might go up a little bit each year, and so this usually trends upward over decades. Insurance then does too, because again, your property might be going up because of inflation of house prices, and also maintenance might cost a little bit more to have somebody come out to maintain your house and to buy things to fix your house up with, and so forth. And home ownership dues might go up as well, right? So all of these costs are subject to inflation, and they all have their own slight inflation. We're not going into the details, so I've just picked a nice round number of, it's about 3%. That's about the housing inflation rate that we see, and it might be a little bit more, a little bit less, and it totally depends on where you live. But in general, housing prices go up in general almost everywhere. So we're just going to take that for fun. and that is D25, right? And so for the next year, you see the home ownership costs are going to be more. So I'm going to take the D16, okay, the D16 number, the initial annual home ownership costs, that was the 3,800, but I want to put in a little bit of inflate this cost a little bit for next year, okay? So I'm going to go double click on that, equals D16 times, and I'll go 1 plus the inflation rate, that inflation rate there, close parenthesis, okay, to the power of, and then I'm going to take this number up here, okay, and then I'm going to press enter. So that's equal D16 times 1 plus the inflation rate to the power of this number, and there we go. So the next year you should expect that your home ownership costs will go up a little bit, your insurance might go up a little bit, property tax might go up a little bit, and so on, right? So that was these guys here. Okay, so now I want to do that for the next year as well, and to help Excel predict what we want it to do, we're always going to take the D16 number, which is what we started with. We're going to put a pound sign around that D there, because we always want to call that number. We always want to call D25 here, the 3%. Okay, so we're going to put a pound sign around that. But the exponent is going to change as the years go by. It's going to go up by 1 each year. Okay, so if I just put a pound dollar sign around the D16, the D25, press enter, that will work. And watch what happens when I use a little predictor here, that little plus, black plus, and I just hold down on the left click on the mouse and move across. And sure enough, for the next year, our home ownership costs have gone up another little bit. And if I double click on that, double click, you can see that it actually did work, because look, it took the D16, which is the initial home ownership costs, and it used our inflation rate here for housing of 3%, and then it put it to the power of D31, okay, which is 2, and we want that. So that's the following year, right? So and then we can keep going on for the next year, and it'll work again. If you double check that worked. That's E31, that's 3, that's good. Okay, and so we'll keep going on. We can do 5 years just for fun. Okay, so what we've shown really quick is your mortgage payments stay the same every year, but home ownership costs go up a little bit with inflation, and that could be different. So what if the inflation was 5% over a period? Well, then they're going up even more, right? What if the inflation rate was 2%? They're not so bad, right? And so on. And so you can change that if you need to as well. Alright, now, and we're going to leave age for a minute. I'm going to come back to that, and we'll just focus on mortgage and rent. Okay, so I've just put mortgage here because I want it to appear nicely on the graph. And this mortgage is actually the mortgage cost plus the home ownership cost, and I didn't want to write all that out. So in mortgage, it's just going to be for the year 0 or the first year, it's going to be equal to this number plus this number. Enter. Okay, and then I'll just type in this one just for fun as well. So on this year, it's going to be equal to the mortgage payments plus home ownership costs. Enter. Right, and I'll see if let's see if Excel can predict what we want it to do. So we'll do the bottom right, a little black plus, and we'll just hold down on the left click for the mouse, and we'll go across. And sure enough, it did what we wanted it to do. Check the 5th year. See, it's double click here. It's G32. See that? G32, right? Plus G33. And there we go. And so as you can see, our overall cost of having this mortgage is going up, because it's not because of the mortgage payments, it's because of the home ownership costs, right? Okay. So now let's start comparing it to rent. So we said that in this area, let's say for a equivalent house or an exact similar house, that let's say the rent was $1,000 a month, so that's $12,000 a year. And we're going to into here put the initial annual rent, which is D23. So look at that. If I just hit equals So I'm just going to, again, I'm just going to hit equals, and then I just click on this, and boom, that cell goes there, and press enter. So that's how I want in this cell. I want 12,000. Okay. Now, the next year though, you've got to predict that your rent is oftentimes goes up. Yes, it goes up and down, but it trends up throughout the years. We need to have a look at housing costs over the last 30, 40, 50 years, and you'll see it definitely trends up. There are definite bubbles and busts. So, but you should predict that, you know, your rent's probably going to go up each year if it doesn't stay the same. So we'll go equals D23 again for the next year, and I want to increase that by about 3%. So times parenthesis 1 plus, take the inflation rate, close parenthesis, put that to the power of 1, which is this number up here. Okay, right? And that, so we're going to predict our rent will be about that much the following year. And of course, if rented, and of course, really you should have a separate inflation rate for all of these things. I mean, there's rental inflation rates, but in general, you know, rental inflation is usually around the same as housing inflation. So I've just used the same percentage just for to look at a broad picture. But of course, it could be 6%, and that there you see your rent going up by a lot more, and so on, right? So, and I want to do that for this year as well, for the next year, and for a whole bunch of years. So I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to put the pound signs around the dollar signs around the D's again, because I wanted to call this D23, the initial annual rent, each time, and I wanted to use this D25, the inflation rate, each time. But this, the exponent is going to change for each year. Okay, so for the next year, it's going to be with an exponent of 2. It'll be squared, right? And the next year it'll be cubed, and so on. And so again, we're just using the little predictor. So we're going to the bottom right, hold down with the left click on the mouse, move it across, and there we have the rent increased by 3% again the following year. And then hold down, move it across, it'll increase by 3% again. And let's double check if it's working. Yes, it keeps calling this cell, which is the initial annual rent, and this inflation rate, and it puts it to the power of 3, right? And we'll move it across to the end, right? So what we're seeing is that and what we'll do now is we'll just have a look at savings with mortgage, if any, and there aren't any. In fact, the rent is cheaper right now. Okay, so we'll go equals, and this will be a negative number because we're gonna, you know, eventually there might be savings with the mortgage, but there's not right now. So if we go equals rent minus the mortgage, we end up with a negative number. The rent is cheaper by 2,000, right? And same again, and I'm actually going to do the predictor right here and see if it works. So I'll hold down on the black plus sign, and hold down on the left click on the mouse, move across, and this time we've saved, or this time the difference is less, and then we go across. Okay, and just double check if that's working. This is saying G36 minus G35. That's G36 is this blue cell. That's the rent minus the mortgage, and that's what we want to see. Yeah, rent minus mortgage. That's working. And so the point is that your entire rent can be going up by a percentage, and this is the general rule over time again. But the mortgage itself, because the whole trick of the mortgage again is that these payments are staying the same over time. Okay, so just for fun, we're going to